You ever get that feeling like time is just slipping through your fingers? One day you're in your 20s, full of energy, and then you blink and you're not. So today we're going to dive into a really powerful set of life lessons that came from someone hitting 40 and asking one huge question. Where did everything go? I mean, that is just such a raw gut punch of a question, isn't it? It's that completely disorienting feeling when you finally look up from the daily grind and realize, whoa, entire decades have just vanished in a blur. So, how does that even happen? Let's get into it. To really understand how we lose all that time, we got to go back to when we thought we had an endless supply of it. You know what I'm talking about? Our 20s and 30s. The source we're looking at calls these the invincible decades. I mean, life in these decades just moves at a ridiculous pace, right? Your 20s are this whirlwind of work and fun and just energy. Then your 30s kind of morph into this chase for, well, for external stuff. Promotions, a bigger house, a nicer car, the next big thing. You're so focused on that next step that you don't even realize you're just running on a hamster wheel until you hit 40 and the music just stops. And this, right here, shows the massive disconnect. While we're in the middle of it, we feel like we have all the time in the world. We feel invincible. But looking back, oof, it becomes painfully clear how much of our precious time, this resource you can never get back, was spent on things that just didn't matter. Petty arguments, jobs we hated, and that endless, exhausting pursuit of more stuff. Okay, so let's get to the moment that changes everything. And we're not talking about some gentle drift into wisdom here. No, this was a sudden, jarring wake-up call that completely flipped the script. A lot of times, it just starts with a number, 40. It's a milestone that kind of forces you to look in the rearview mirror and ask, wait, is this it? But for the person behind these lessons, the real catalyst was something way more intense than a birthday. Yeah, the real turning point wasn't just a number. It was a major health scare in his mid-40s that completely shattered that illusion of invincibility he'd been carrying around for, well, for his whole life. So we're not talking about some gentle epiphany over a cup of coffee. This was a rock-bottom moment, a truly traumatic event that forced an immediate, profound shift in perspective. It was the universe screaming that the path he was on was completely unsustainable. Now, this kind of crisis, as they so often do, leads you to ask a really fundamental question, one that cuts through all the noise and gets right to the heart of why we're even here. When all that other stuff, the career ambitions, the stuff you own, the daily stress, is suddenly put into perspective by a life-altering event, what's actually left? What are the real core pieces of a meaningful life? And the clarity that came from that, wow, it was dramatic. The focus instantly shifted. It went from climbing the career ladder to focusing on his health, from buying more things to actually connecting with his family. It became all about rejecting the constant rush and learning to appreciate the simple, kind of mundane moments of just being alive. It was a total 180. The old life was all about external validation, what other people thought, what you owned. The new life, it's about internal peace and just being. It's about finding joy in the journey itself because, as the source puts it, the only real destination is, well, a hole in the ground. So having this new clarity is one thing. But how do you actually put it into practice? How do you live differently day to day? It's not just about changing your thinking. It's about changing what you do. One of the biggest hurdles, and I think we can all relate to this, is that fear of failure. It leads to endless excuses, right? Oh, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll start next week. But this new perspective makes you realize tomorrow isn't guaranteed. If you want to make a change, you have to be the one to make that choice. Not next week, right now. You know, something else happens with this new perspective. You start to feel a real urgency about your relationships. As you get older, you start to experience loss more often, and you realize the time for holding grudges is just over. The advice here is simple. Reconnect. Say hello again. Because trust me, you'll regret it if you don't. And here's the key. This wisdom doesn't just happen to you. It's an active practice. After decades of just running around and consuming, this stage of life becomes about turning inward. Actually taking the time to reflect on your experiences, your choices, your feelings. That's the real engine for self-growth. And this all builds up to one central, incredibly powerful conclusion about how we should approach the time we have left. whether you're 25 or 65. You know, you can pause and rewind this explainer if you want, but life? Nope. There are no do-overs. Every single moment is happening for the very first and the very last time. This is not a dress rehearsal, people. This is the main event. So here is the essential takeaway. You have to become a fierce protector of your time and your energy. You have to be absolutely ruthless about cutting out the fear and the petty distractions, not just to do it, but to make room for what truly matters. And, in the middle of all this deep self-reflection and personal growth, maybe the simplest and most profound thing we can do is just be kind. It's such a simple plea, but it's really the foundation of a meaningful life. And that's what it all comes down to, right? It leaves us with this final thought, turning one person's story into a direct question for every single one of us. And it's not about someday in the future. It's about right now. You only get one life. How are you going to choose to live it today?